welcome to another episode of Poshteacher. I'm so glad you could join us, and I have a very special guest today. We have Beth Walls, and she is going to talk to us about homeschooling life and what it entails. So, Beth, welcome to our program.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here today.
Well, Beth, what we always ask here at Poshteacher is, what was your aha moment that you decided to enter the journey of education?
So my oldest is in fourth grade. We have 3 kids. So my oldest is in fourth grade. My daughter is in second grade, and my youngest son, is in kindergarten. So it was about the time when my oldest son went to kindergarten many years ago. I had been raised in the public school and thought, well, we'll send him to public school, and that's kind of what you do. I had gotten to know some homeschooling families prior to that experience. And so we're like, okay, we're going to try it out. He's going to go to kindergarten at the local school. We were able to walk to school, so that was great. So he went to kindergarten, and we walked to school and walked back. And that walking experience was about the only active time he had really in his school day. They had an extended day. But just, it wasn't his jam. He did not want to sit in a seat and listen. He wanted to be active and learning. And they really weren't meeting his needs as a whole child. From my perspective, they weren't considering his head, his heart, his hands, which are important to us as a family. So ultimately, we saw his reaction to the school system and decided that the best thing to do for him was to take him out and homeschool him from there. And just seeing what other people were doing around the area, I'm like, okay, well, they're doing it. It looks like they're doing some pretty cool things with schooling. Let's do this. And so he went through a phase where you could tell he was happier. And then ultimately, he just became more happy and more grounded without having to be in school every day. It had gotten to the point where he was just upset and kicking and screaming and not wanting to go to school at all. And that's when we realized, oh, he's really having a tough time. This isn't just a phase. This is really a hard time. He needs some other kind of education. And from there on, it's been the best.
So Beth, do you think, this is a really interesting point. I don't mean to interrupt your story, but does this make it realize for people that the traditional school environment is not for every child? And as parents, do we need to be aware that in the early years that we don't have to follow that traditional path for our child to get an education?
Right. Yeah. I think starting homeschooling can be intimidating for people. But yeah, like you can learn through life, and you can learn, just as well as, you breathe. Really, you're learning. If you're up walking around, you're learning. So to look for those places where the kids can learn is important. And a traditional school path doesn't work for everybody. We thought it would, but it ended up not working. And then, so we found other ways to serve him, ultimately for his happiness and his mental health. He just, he wasn't in a good place. He didn't like it. He didn't want to go. And now he's excited about learning. It's many years later, but he's excited about learning. He's curious. He's interested in many things now.
So is there a program where you get the materials that your child needs to cover to be able to, get certified or graduate from the state, per se, from the school system? How does that process work?
Yeah. So in the United States, each state has their own regulations as to what homeschoolers can do and the process to register as a homeschool. We're in California, so we can either file on our own as a private school and homeschool that way, or we can join a charter school affiliate and homeschool through that way. And so that's what we've chosen to do. But depending on what state you're in, you can look up your state regulations and see what the requirements are. I've got friends in different states who homeschool differently. They have different requirements. They don't homeschool differently, but they have different requirements that they need to meet with the state. Some turn in portfolios. Some have checkups with public school teachers at certain times, that kind of thing. So it varies by state. But here we have a lot of freedom with what we could do to homeschool.
And how do you structure your day as you know, homeschooling your child? How is the day structured? You know, people are always curious. How do you, you know, get your laundry done, cooking, and homeschool?
Yeah. So we've sat down with the kids since they're all old enough to have input really on what works for them. And we kind of came up with a schedule. You know, one day's, you know, more language arts focus, more nature, more science, depending on the day. So we'll do a big block of time and have that study for a length of time. Laundry days are every other Sunday for the kids. They do their own laundry. So they put it in, we turn it on. Yeah. They know to put it in the washer. I put the soap in, start it. And then when it's done, they move it to the dryer. And then when it's all done, then they fold it. So they are expected to do that as just part of life, which makes it easy for me because they all do their own laundry. They all have their own laundry basket. So nothing gets mixed up.
Great.
But that's a little side note. Laundry is done every other Sunday for them. Yeah. So, but yeah, you just find that rhythm and that routine. You know, my husband's working from home now 3 days a week. So that changes our routine. He's also involved with our homeschooling as well. He will take breaks from work time and actually work with the kids. So that's been a nice thing for me and a good thing for them to have, you know, just a different person teaching them, you know, which they've had that experience before, but when things shut down, we haven't had a whole lot of outside teachers teaching them since last March.
Are you a part of other homeschool, like a support group for other homeschool families? That do you do collaborate or do stuff together? Is there programs like that?
There are some programs. We're part of our group, a nature group. And so there's activities once a week to go out and hike or go to the beach or to meet together. So sometimes we'll do that. We haven't done a whole lot since March. And since it is winter in California, it's been a little bit chilly. We did have a lot of rain a while back and the tides have been really high. So it's not been safe to really go to the beach at certain times of the day. So we'll meet up with those friends. And that gives the kids a chance to interact with kids of all different ages and even adults too. So they get a well-rounded experience socially, meeting with different age levels of children and, you know, adults in that regard. So that the kids do go to a farming program on Mondays, and then they get to meet with some other kids too there. They're all out. It's all outdoor education right now, which it would be anyway at a farm. It's under the ag guidelines of the state. And so they're outside, they're planting, they're harvesting, they're cooking all day, which is cool for them to have that experience too. Yeah. My kids are really hands-on project-based learners. They, you know, just deeper than what they would in a classroom experience.
Definitely. And I had heard that obviously you can do more in less amount of hours when you're at home, right? Because at school, there's other things that make the day longer, right?
Right. Yeah. Theoretically, yes. You know, ultimately that would be the goal to get school done early. For us personally, though, we just learn through life and we're always doing. So we don't have a traditional start time of school and an end time of school.
Okay.
You know, we'll work on our things throughout the day as needed. And, you know, if we'll just keep working, you know, and taking breaks and having dinner and cooking and, you know, that kind of stuff. So our school flows with our home life. You know, it's all kind of intertwined and together. So there's not a definite start and stop like there would be going to school.
That's wonderful. And so do you see your children being homeschooled until they get to high school or even through their high school years? What is kind of the benchmarks for that? How does it work?
Yeah. Depending on their interests, you know, just not necessarily taking it year by year. Definitely for their elementary time, this is what's working for us. As they get to middle and high school, that might change with what they're interested in and what they want to do. We'll kind of see, you know, I can't really say right now. Right. My oldest talks a lot about, you know, what's going on like after high school, you know, college and life, and talking about what he wants to do when he grows up already. and pretty seriously talking about what he wants to do when he grows up. So we'll see where his path goes. If he does want to go to traditional high school, it might not work for him to sit in a classroom after he's been, out of a classroom, hands-on, hardworking, outside on our property, farming, wanting to be a farmer, that might not work for him to go into a traditional school.
Definitely.
So
No.
the independent study might work better for him for high school. We'll see when we get there.
And you know what, I want to go back to, you said a great, how you described in the beginning, how you think it's important to fill all aspects of a child. You said heart, mind. Can you explain that again? That was really...
Oh yeah. So in the past few years, I've learned about Waldorf Education, and Rudolf Steiner created that philosophy. And so it's all about educating the child with, through their head, their heart, and their hands. So that it's not just knowledge being given to a child. It's the knowledge and what's inside them in their heart, and working with your hands, weaving, but they're also out in the gardening and working with their hands and building things, building things with wood and hammering and all that kind of stuff. So looking at the whole child, where they're working on one thing, but they're really enriching their whole self through the process of learning.
And how do you...
I've learned a lot and read a lot about books, about that recently, in the last few years. So
I think that's phenomenal. And I think we need to share that more with the world of education, because there's so many children that get lost in the cracks with this traditional school mindset. I know I have a lot of students with dyslexia and other learning disabilities that are extremely gifted, very, very intelligent. But these traditional world is putting them in a roadblock where they cannot grow, like you've mentioned, how they should. And how do you think families can learn from this? How should we spread the word about not being in the traditional might not be for their child? What kind of advice can you give parents?
Advice. Well, really, you have to be brave, because it's easier to go down the path of traditional schooling, and to not think out of the box. As I've moved on into my adulthood, I've become more of an outside of the box thinker, and kind of went the other way, than the traditional expectation, I guess. And so to be flexible, and to look at your child and see what your child might, how they would, excel, and what strengths they have. But to also be patient with yourself. If you are going to make the jump to homeschooling, it's not going to be easy at first. It is challenging to, kind of figure out what you're going to do and everything. And, even for me, this is our 5th year homeschooling, and we're still changing things. We're still flexible enough to say, okay, well, maybe this kind of isn't working right now. Let's change it. Looking at different books and things that we've used. So to have grace and patience really with yourself, in that flexibility. And we learn alongside our children. I'm not the expert giving them knowledge. We're learning with them based on what they're interested in, and also what the state has to say. Each state has their own school standards, of what the children should be learning each year. We do look at that too, to keep, on a path.
And has your education, you said you have an educational background, has that helped you in creating that environment for your children? A strong homeschooling environment? Does a parent need to have, would it be handy to have some background in education? Because I don't know, most parents would just, I don't know, that don't have that extra in them. How does that work?
Yeah, you don't have to be a teacher to homeschool your child, really. Sometimes it could help. Sometimes it doesn't help. Sometimes, comparison is the thief of joy, and you're comparing yourself to what they're doing in the public schools, and you're comparing, what they should be doing with what you're doing. And, that's not healthy for anybody to be doing. But my husband's not a teacher at all. And he, still works with the kids, and he's, we're learning alongside them, as, what we're working on. I don't know everything, so if they're interested in something, he does more of the kind of the science and the nature and the building stuff.
Okay.
When they really want to build something, my husband will kind of take that on and work with them. And the gardening and like the heavy lifting work outside, he'll work with them on. My oldest is in 4th grade, and he was helping Daddy work on the truck yesterday. And so the other 2 weren't helping with the truck, but he got hands-on experience I think they worked on the radiator. And so they fixed that, and he got to learn about the truck now, just from our experience of, oh yeah, the truck needs a little work. Well, Daddy's working on it. So he's curious enough. He wants to go be right there and learn about all the parts inside the truck and how it works also. But yeah, you don't have to have an education background. Sometimes that can hinder people. And I speak from experience where you're homeschooling and you're trying to do school at home, and you're trying to replicate what happens in the school day at home. And it just doesn't work well, really, because it's too rigid and too scheduled, and, blocking off 45 minutes for each subject sometimes doesn't always work.
True.
It's a lot easier to be more flexible. But then you have to just understand that you're flexible, and embrace that, and go with that and not compare yourself.
That's good advice. Flexibility. Yeah. Yeah. If someone right now reaches out and says, I'm interested in homeschooling my child, do they go on a website? Like you said, per their state has certain websites where they can go and find and register? Is that how they go to, or do they go to
each
school?
state? You could. The homeschooling here through the districts are a little bit different. You don't have a curriculum choice.
Okay.
If you are in the homeschool program of the local public school district.
Okay.
What you could do is you would go to your state Department of Education's website and look at the requirements for that. And then you would kind of go from there, what they would have as requirements. So, I'm more than willing to talk to anybody about how to get started. And support is good. To have that community of support, either in person locally through co-ops, or online through, Facebook, groups and community groups, and Instagram, people just connecting with each other. I like to connect with people. I've worked on that through my personal business for many years. So, if I can be a resource to anybody, definitely, that's what I'm here for, really, to give other people, advice. I guess I shouldn't say advice. That's probably the wrong word, but just
but help them through this journey,
and,
because it can be a little bit unnerving,
Yes.
So definitely, no, that helps. Well, actually, this leads into our next question. Yes, do you have another life? I know besides homeschooling and the kids, you mentioned that you help with coaching and giving people advice. So can you share, I know you're involved in many different things. It was like, wow, Beth, how do you find the time? So tell us about all the great things that you do, Beth. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes. Well, so I do work with homeschooling families as a support for them. And just supporting them in their journey of homeschooling. 2 working parents can still homeschool their children. And that's, my husband and I both work full time. But then we also homeschool our children.
Wow.
And I'm also an artist and a business owner. I've had an art business for several years, since I think we're on over 20 years. I think I've been professionally an artist. And I also have a couple businesses supporting others in getting organized and nourishing their relationships with their self and others and their business. And so my oldest is also learning entrepreneurship to do that too. So he's learning alongside me, real life experience with, how to connect people with, organizational products they need, health products they need, business and learning tools that they need. So he's excited to help me out with that. So it's nice to have a little sidekick.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah.
That's a cool thing. Well, tell us, yes, you said you were an artist, and tell us what kind of medium you work with.
Okay, so I actually work with stained glass and wood. And so there was a large period of time where I was creating stained glass windows for tiny homes and tree houses.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh.
that's always been a passion of mine. Yeah. So, and then I do some working with wood. I'm going to be working on some educational products with wood here soon. My oldest is also going to be building a tiny home on our property. And so that's going to be my next journey. Yeah. Documenting that with him and possibly writing it down and documenting and maybe authoring a book.
Oh my gosh,
that
is the coolest thing.
Yeah, it's fun.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So did you ever do something for the show, the Tiny Homes program they had at HGTV?
Not exactly. There was a local company here that I worked with exclusively. They're friends of mine. And I was with, I got to work on their pirate ships and stuff with them way back. So
oh my, how fun. And do people can they really live and function in those tiny homes? Like, give us the inside scoop. I always wonder.
I think so, yeah. I did an interview series on tiny homes a couple years back I had quite a few guests. And it was so interesting to meet people who live tiny and how they lived and worked and moved around. And it was just such a great experience. But yeah, people actually do. We're looking at it more as our oldest's bedroom. And so he won't be very far away from our house. But instead of building onto our house, having him design a house and build it from scratch with his dad. And then I'll have some design input, but so he's got his little book. He's starting on his blueprints and his plans. We know where we want to put it, and he's looking into the future where he wants to be able to move it to property when he's old enough and have it start his farm with him.
Oh my God.
We'll
so there's a whole process happening here. Oh my gosh.
He's got it all figured out, really. So we'll see.
That is great. Hey, young people are awesome. Their minds always thinking ahead. It's awesome. Well, oh my gosh, Beth. Well, this is so cool. And then you said, so you're also a writer. So would this be a project that you'd be working on?
A couple years ago, I started taking creative writing classes, and in children's illustration and children's book writing. And so I've taken some of the stories of our animals that we have on our property, and have transformed them into some children's stories. And so I'm looking forward to working on those again and hopefully getting those published eventually. But yeah, we have quite a few animals on our property that make for good characters of things. So.
Oh my God! Yeah. Do you make any yarn? I'm a huge knitter. Do you have any alpacas or llamas?
We have one of each. We have a llama named Fred. Yeah, Fred is our llama and Dusty is our alpaca. We're in the process of, this shearer didn't come visit last year. They were supposed to travel down from Washington and they didn't. So we have a good climate here. So our boys didn't get sheared last year, so they will this spring. Hopefully the shearer will be traveling. But yeah, my oldest, again, very into processes, and he wants to, that's part of his business, is he wants to take the wool and transform it into yarn and to spin it and to sell it.
Can I be the first customer?
But we only, I guess so. I don't know how raw it will be. It'll be hand spun, but yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So those are two of our critters. So they're fun. Then they're out in the pasture.
Oh my God, they're the cutest thing. Actually, I don't have them handy. Hold on. I look at that. He's an alpaca. I have a web store, and I'm a huge knitter. So I just did an event this past week.
Okay, fun.
And so, anyways, I have these for my show.
So yeah.
But
they're so much fun.
Yeah. It's so fun. Well, I didn't mean to get off topic. Alpacas, I'm crazy about them. So Beth, I also noticed that you talked about organizing, and do you also have a business with organizing, I believe, with the bags? Is it 30 something?
I do. Yeah. I'm a independent consultant with 31 Gifts.
31
And
gifts.
so I help really busy, abundant families get organized, with what they need. Also business people, I've organized their mobile offices in their cars and stuff.
So you physically go to the location and...
Well, yeah, pre-COVID,
Oh.
yes, as I was meeting people, yeah. But I do have the tools, I like to sit and chat with people and just really learn about what they're needing to organize.
So many experiences and so many great things happening in your life. Do you have a personal motivational quote?
I don't know. I was kind of looking and thinking through things, and it's just like, I love to be inspired with what's around me, whether it's nature or the people around me or what we're learning about, just be open and flexible to, inspiration from anywhere. As a creative, when I'm getting inspired, it's fun to kind of work on that and to just be open to new possibilities. So not a quote from anybody, but just
you, it's
how we
genuine.
like to live. Yeah.
Definitely. Very genuine and more valuable than anything else. Yeah. It's a great quote. No, thank you. Well, this has been such a joy. And there's just so many things we can all learn from hearing you speak. We really appreciate, you sharing the homeschooling world and other things. It's really, I think, will open up other people's minds and step out of their comfort zone a little bit to explore things that might help their families. So thank you so much, Beth, and we'll hopefully talk to you soon on the show. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.